This video is about text styles in Affinity Designer. These also exist inside Affinity Photo and will probably consist in any Affinity product coming out in the future. These are what you could define as presets for text styles or paragraph styles for blocks of text, strings of text, and even group styles that you can define when you group a set of elements on a design. Here I have kind of what I start with when I typically do a website. I like to do a systematic approach, so I create what I like to call a design system, and here I outline what I think the typography will entail once we get to web development. And in this case, this is for a website that deals with solar energy. So here I've got just kind of some clean sans serif type. I've already put specifications on it. This is just for my own sake because I'll actually be the one developing the site. But oftentimes if I do this, being a designer, sometimes I hand these things off to developers. So this stuff is really great just to kind of convey what things should look like and just to keep things consistent as they change hands. The point of this video is to talk about textiles. So aside from that, we have a quick form concept for the website that deals with just contacting the business and mention for solar energy needs. What we want to deal with primarily are these different text styles throughout. So we have a heading here, we have a kind of an intro body of text. Notice it's a little larger than the main body copy here. A subheading and like a tertiary heading, so like a heading 3, and then an alternate kind of heading that is all caps with a different color. We also have a quote or block quote kind of style to utilize, and labels for form fields, as well as small like legal text, I would say. And then of course a button, which we'll get into kind of the symbols and assets territory, which is in some other videos on the site, so be sure to check those out. But to get started, we can go ahead and just start defining some text styles. I actually have the panel open already in my document, but you can find it under View, Studio, and textiles. There are 3 different creation modes, I'll call them. One's for paragraph specifically, one is for actual character. So in our case, this would be a character and this would be a paragraph. And then one for groups. We'll utilize mainly paragraphs and character styles in this video, but just know group is also a style you can set. And how these work typically is just to encapsulate what exists on the style that you've created at this given point, and it saves that so you can use it later. So what we want to do to create one is set a character style. For instance, this black main heading that I'll utilize maybe for hero images or actual page titles on a website. I'll go ahead and create that character style. When you click that button, you get this dialog box where you can name that style. So I'm going to call this just heading 1 for now. In this particular view, you can set what this style is based on if there are any other styles already set. You can also base it on the next style if you like, and declare a keyboard shortcut even, which is great. You can also change the type here and show in both the panels of paragraph and text styles. So you'll see kind of just a rendering of all the stylings that are on that specific content, or that selection I should say. And in here you can even go as far as tweaking these things. If you want to see a real-time update of what you change, go ahead and click this checkbox to the left. Since I've already kind of made this and I'm satisfied with it, I'm going to just make these presets, and at any point on our existing design, we can go ahead and utilize that now. So we have this heading 1 character style here. So say I want to add, just for fun, we'll do one more here. This is a heading, and this isn't a great example because I already have the same style set, but let's change maybe just to something random in my presets here. So say we want to make this that heading style, we can just do a 1-click to our text styles over here and have that ready to go. So you'll see the power there. And if you're making multi-page sites that are intensive or very verbose, you want to make sure you utilize these presets. It'll just save you a lot of time and headache later on down the line, especially if you hand things off to someone else who codes these things. So we can do the same thing for paragraph content. Here I've got some formatted text within paragraphs. Sadly, I don't think that is a feature you can do. So basically all we can do is render what this paragraph will look like as is. So just the black text is what I'm referring to, not so much the orange text, which would be a link. So let's go ahead and create a paragraph style. And we'll call this like lead in content, maybe. We'll just call it lead. How about that? As I mentioned before, you can base this on a predefined setting or text style. I'm not going to do this in this case since it's basically a different font and different weight, different size. There's kind of no need to do that. And I'll go ahead and create that. So now we have that lead paragraph style in effect, and say we want to do a rendering of that. I'm going to get the text frame tool going. Hit T twice on your keyboard to get that. And then I'll just enter filler text from the text menu for now. And we have already just our old preset for the heading. We don't really want that in this case. We'll just do lead. We'll select that. Looks like it utilized our old style. There we go. So it looks like it was using both the heading and the lead, and the heading was taking prominence over that. So you needed to uncheck detach for that specific style. So that was kind of just a weird fluke there. But essentially we've got our style all set right there for us to use. So you saw how easy that was to just kind of select and utilize. So we could do the same for a heading 3, or like a second level heading, I should call it. We'll make it a character style heading. Actually, we'll base this off, we'll just leave it as is actually. So that, and we'll do that. So now we have our heading 2 preset there. And again, we can do something like so. Something like that. I don't really have any ideas for text there, but so that's already set up. So we can actually, it keeps asking, or it keeps showing me that it's synced to this heading 1. I want it to be just to the 2. So I'm actually going to detach that. So it's only that. So there we go. And then let's make a basic paragraph preset. So we'll do this one. So we can go ahead and do a new paragraph style here. We'll just put it as body. If we want to make a keyboard shortcut, we could do maybe Command B. Looks like it's already taken though. So if we do Command Shift B, there we go. So let's just utilize that. It shows you the keyboard shortcut in the panel, which is very helpful. So let's do another text frame again. T twice on your keyboard. And we'll go ahead and insert filler text again. So this is still utilizing our previous selection. Want to actually detach that and go ahead and apply this one. And it looks like the line height here is kind of wonky. I kind of want that to be different. Here it wasn't so bad, so I'm wondering what happened in the mix. But let's go ahead and edit that here in this text style. So we'll get to position transform, and letting override looks like it's overridden a bit. Actually, you know what? I think it's just utilizing some weird filler text. Let's see what happens if I do this again. There we go. Okay, so it was right. It was just pulling like a poem or something. There we go. So we have our paragraph to body content there. So that's already, you know, a full style list of settings. So we can go on and on here. Like I could even create label presets, which I'll do as a character style real quick. So I'll just do like label, maybe form label for context, and create that. So that one's good. And maybe some of this legal text. We'll make it a paragraph. It's legal, or maybe helper text. I'm not sure. We'll leave it as it is for now. You notice I made that Command Shift B key command on the body content. Let's try to put that into play here. So if I just do Command Shift B, that changes. So you'll see how powerful that is if you wanted to really streamline your workflow. I'm going to change that back for now. So this is typically my process when I create a style guide for a website. I start here before I create any pages for a website, and that's on purpose, just to get an idea, to choose really repeatable objects and make sure those are solidified before I actually begin to design. Those will change, and they often do, but it's nice to have at least a foundation. And designing in a systematic way like this and using preset text styles keeps things very consistent. The same is true for symbols and assets in Affinity Designer. So buttons in particular, I'd probably make either an asset or a symbol. In most cases, I think I prefer the asset panel just because I can drag and drop and things are just ready, set up, and go. Here by default we have the iOS one. You won't have the messages one. I made that one myself, but you can create a new one. So we'll start by creating a new category. We'll rename it to, I don't know, new website. And you can even rename this subcategory, just call this buttons. And to utilize this, just go ahead and drag this over. And now we have that button handy in the assets panel. It actually is a symbol once you drag it to your document, and I'll show you why. The orange here indicates a symbol. So this one is actually a symbol now too, since we made it an asset. So let's say I change the color of the button on this particular asset. It won't change our asset as is. If you drag a new one out from the assets panel, they'll all kind of retain what they were first originally set as. But if you were to duplicate this, let's do Alt-Shift-Click and drag. And say we updated the button color to something else, you'll notice all these change in real time. So you can see the power there. Things continue, and there's presets go lower. That's just a quick overview of text styles in Affinity Designer. As you can see, if you combine text styles, symbols, assets, and all that stuff, you can really create some dynamic designs. And this is huge for UI design and website design in particular. It's very, very powerful, and I'm really loving it. I think you will too.